we're gonna start with, we're gonna start with reviewing for the map that will be on the next quiz, which will be Tuesday. Same day you take your math, Wednesday, sorry. I keep thinking Monday, then Tuesday, no, Tuesday is the first day of the week for next week, because we don't have school on Monday. So, the quiz and the math test are both going to be history quiz and math test on Wednesday. Tuesday we'll review for them one more time, and Wednesday is the day of those. So, this map will be on Wednesday's quiz. I think I kept saying Tuesday yesterday even. I kept forgetting about Monday not having school. So, it will be on Wednesday. Alright.
North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin.
Alright, let's do them in order, and we'll do it a little bit slower for those that aren't sure.
North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan.
Alright, now, just like last time when we read, well, first we did Noah Webster, and he will be on the next quiz. And then we did together John Greenleaf Whittier and Louisa May Alcott. They were all in one chapter, two different sections. Now that's what we're going to do again. But this time it's David Crockett and Sam Houston. And just like John Greenleaf Whittier and Louisa May Alcott sort of went together, they were both authors. They were actually both from Massachusetts. David, they were going to call him Davy soon. There's actually this song where they call him Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. But anyway, they have a lot of similarities. As we read about them, you're going to find they were very, very similar people. Sort of like when we learned Lewis and Clark, we found out how they had a lot of things in common.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes they're going to put people together because they have a lot in common. And these two men are in the same situation. How many of you have ever heard of the Alamo? If you've ever been to Texas, you might have gone to the Alamo. It is a historical site to visit, but it's a very sad story what happened there. So let's begin reading. So we got David Crockett in 1786 to 1836, and Sam Houston 1793 to 1863. All right, so one of them was much longer than the other one. All right, two American heroes, David Crockett and Sam Houston, were alike in many ways. They both loved their country, worked hard, and bravely fought for freedom. Later in their lives, these two men became a part of the famous Battle of the Alamo. All right, so we're going to start with David, or Davy. This is like a nickname, Davy Crockett. He was born in Tennessee. All right, the Ballad of Davy Crockett. So this is a song that somebody wrote about David Crockett or Davy Crockett. Goes like this. Born on a mountaintop in Tennessee, greenest state in the land of the free. Raised in the woods so he knew every tree. Killed him a bear when he was only 3. Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier.
I don't like that song.
That tune may not be quite right, but it the end is for sure.
Yeah.
So David, or Davy Crockett, was not actually born on a mountaintop, but he was born in eastern Tennessee in 1786. Because the things he did in his life were very important, he became a folk hero when songs and television shows were written about him. So actually when I was young, there was a show with Davy Crockett in it. Right? And there was another show with Daniel Boone in it. So both of them became folk heroes. Alright, a folk hero is a person, real or fictional, who is admired by the people of a particular place for his accomplishments. Another folk hero that is not necessarily real is Paul Bunyan.
Oh,
Back there
yeah, Paul
somewhere.
Bunyan. Oh, yeah,
Back there, yeah, they say he had a big, huge blue ox. Alright, so do you think that's real? No, so he's a folk hero. But Davy Crockett was a real person, but he became a folk hero. Alright, so read the important names. Davy Crockett, a pioneer and explorer who died as a hero in the Battle of the Alamo. Santa Anna, president of Mexico who led his army against Texas. Alright, so remember Mexico is a country below the United States, right? and he was the president of Mexico. Then we have Sam Houston, pioneer, soldier, and first president of the Republic of Texas. And you're like, president of Texas? Well, think about it. Before Texas became part of the United States of America, they were their own country. Okay? They weren't part of the United States at first. They did belong to Mexico, or at least Mexico wanted it. And then they were their own country, and he was president of Texas. But later, Texas joined the United States. Right? And then we have the Battle of San Jacinto. It's an 18-minute battle that Mexico lost against Texas. All right, so most of your specials are about 25 minutes.
Yep.
So this battle lasted shorter amount of time than one of your specials. 18 minutes. Which I'm sure in a battle it probably seemed like a long time. Just like when you're eager for something to happen, time seems to go by so slow. Right? And in this case, this is a terrible thing, so it probably seemed like it lasted forever. But it was just 18 minutes. All right, David's parents were pioneers. Did you guys turn the page?
Yes.
I did. Oh, wait, we're going to read the important places before we start reading. The important place, the first one is the Alamo, a former Spanish mission that was used as a fort by Texas soldiers. So when they're fighting Santa Anna, this is where their fort was. Please stay on the page I'm on. We're on page 222. That's where the important places are. Are you on page 222? The important people were on that other page, but the important places are at the bottom of page 222. And then we have Mexico, a country in North America that borders the United States. And I can't really show it to you because we only have the Midwest region up. But anyway, it's below Texas, right? It touches a few of those states on the southwest side of the nation. But it's the country. Canada's above the United States. Mexico is below the United States. All right. Now, start at the top of the page. David's parents were pioneers. Their home was usually a one-room cabin with dirt floors. Everything the pioneers needed had to be handmade. His family worked from sunrise to sunset, and there was little time to play. Davy learned to hunt. He purchased his first gun when he was 17 years old. He named all his guns after his favorite sister. He called them Old Betsy. If a farmer needed a new barn, all the people who lived around were invited to come and help. This was called a barn raising. And it became like a party. First they'd work, and then they'd eat and have fun. When the barn was completed, the pioneers had a frolic or party. They shared a big meal, enjoyed music, and played games together. It was one of these occasions that Davy met Polly, the girl he later married. David enjoyed hunting and was known as an excellent woodsman with a great deal of common sense. Top of the next page. Creek War. Down in Alabama, the Creek Indians went to war against settlers who built homes and towns along the Creek's tribal borders. Davy Crockett knew that if the Indians were declaring war in Alabama, it would not be long until the fighting came to Tennessee, where other Creek Indians lived. So the Creek Indians is a tribe of Indians, sort of like the Cherokee, who the Colonel bought Kentucky from, or the Shoshone, which was what Sacagawea was part of the Shoshone tribe. So the Creek is just a tribe of Indians. That's the name of their tribe. Now I gotta find where it was.
David
Oh. Davy Crockett knew that if the Indians were declaring war in Alabama, it would not be long until the fighting came to Tennessee, where other Creek Indians lived. He joined this new war by signing up for the Tennessee Volunteer Mounted Riflemen. David Crockett served as a scout in the Creek War, which was part of the War of 1812. Do you remember who we were fighting in the War of 1812?
Francis Starkey.
That is who he wrote the national anthem during the War of 1812. But who were we fighting? Who were we fighting, guys? England. Yes, we were fighting England. His job was to find where the Creek Indians were heading and warn his group against an attack. During the war, he would take old Betsy into the woods and bring back deer meat to feed the hungry troops. He also spent his own money to buy blankets for the troops. That's very kind of him, isn't it?
I know.
The Creek Indians finally lost the war and also lost much of their land, which is sort of sad because it was their land to begin with.
Yeah.
So some of those situations were not handled too well back then, were they?
No.
Trouble at home. After the war, Polly Crockett became sick and died. That's sad. Davy Crockett was left to care for their 3 small children. He later married a woman whose husband had died in the war. Together they moved to a new home in Tennessee. It is said that everywhere he went, he was eager to see what was farther beyond the plain, over the mountain, or across the river. He needed to explore. Turn page. Serving his country. I'm not going to sing it this time. He went off to Congress and served a spell, fixing up the governments and laws as well. Took over Washington, so we heard tell, and patched up the crack in the Liberty Bell. Davy Crockett, seeing his duty clear. So, some of those things are true, but did he really do all those things? No. And that's what a folk hero becomes. They are real. People are not always real. Some of them are just legends, like Paul Bunyan. But they just become bigger than life. People admire them so much that they actually start making up stories about things they did. All right. People liked Davy Crockett because, like them, he was a pioneer. He wore the same kind of clothing they did, and he spoke plainly. They chose him to serve Tennessee as a representative in Washington, D.C. Davy Crockett spent his first 2 years learning about his job in Congress, but before his term was over, he had learned to tell people what he thought and tried to make a difference. Although he did not really patch up the crack in the Liberty Bell, he was known for defending the Constitution. All right, so stop and think. Davy Crockett did not always dress and look like the other men in Congress. Even though he did not dress a certain way, his desire was to serve his country. What qualities make a good leader? All right, so does it have to do with how you dress?
No.
No. Now you do need to look presentable and respectful, right? But the way he's dressed there, he can look presentable and respectful without putting on a suit, right? If he'd have gone to Congress in his bathing suit, though, wouldn't that have been a little silly? Okay. Would he have commanded respect if he'd have done something silly like that?
No.
No. But you don't have to dress a certain way. Your character is more important than how you look, isn't it? And how you treat others is also more important than how you look. Read what the Bible says with me, please. From the Lord, for the Lord seeth not as a man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. So remember that when you see somebody, okay? They aren't always as they look. Learn to get to know them before you make judgment calls about them. All right, we're not even finished reading about him, but that's where we're supposed to stop. But I do want to start reviewing again for the quiz. It's going to be next Wednesday. Okay, no more singing that song, okay, guys? Now, some of these we haven't read about, but we did mention them as terms, so I'm going to see if you can tell me what the answer is, okay? Who wrote the first American dictionary? That one you know. Noah Webster. Who wrote the book Little Women?
Louisa May Alcott.
Louisa May Alcott. Who wrote the poem Snowbound?
John Greenleaf Whittier.
John Greenleaf Whittier. Who was the Mexican president who fought against Texans?
Santa Anna.
Santa Anna. So Santa, you should remember, especially since it was just Christmas. And then the girl's name, Anna. Santa Anna. This one you won't know, but who served as governor of Tennessee and then later Texas? You're going to have to remember it's not Davy Crockett because he's going to die. So it has to be the other one, Sam Houston. Even though they're both known for the Alamo, you're going to find out why did Davy Crockett die, but not Sam Houston. We'll find that out later, okay? So you just have to remember the one who served as governor of Tennessee and then later Texas can't be Davy Crockett because he's going to end up dying. So it has to be Sam Houston. And who was the pioneer from Tennessee who fought to free Texas?
David Crockett.
That was Davy Crockett. say he died there, but he does. When he fights, he ends up dying. In fact, the sad thing is, everybody that was at the Alamo fighting for Texas died. Everybody died. Everybody. All right, many Texans lost their lives at this place when they were fighting for Texas.
The Alamo.
The Alamo, very good. Davy Crockett served in Congress as a representative for what state?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. And it took almost 20 years for Noah Webster to write this. The
American Dictionary.
Very good. And what are the 3 books found in the one-room schoolhouse?
Primer, Speller, and Bible.
Grammar, Speller, and Bible. Very good. And then you'll need to know this Midwest region for that quiz.